have arrived at episode 40, and I'm happy about that. I had no idea where this podcast was going to go. I thought I would continue doing it because, as much as I'm not entirely sure why I started doing this, there also doesn't seem to be a reason to stop. I'm really enjoying the conversations that I have with the people who are so gracious to be guests. And I do like to still try to take these opportunities every 10th episode to reflect back and think about what I might have learned from those experiences, those conversations. So I've been sick. I've been sick a lot this year, but I spent most of last week in bed. And so that gave me time to think. And somehow thinking about why I'm getting sick in the context of this podcast, strangely, one of the things I realized was that I tend to live at two extremes, either 100% go or full stop. And I was asking myself why I do that. What is it that might be driving me to push so hard to the point where I collapse pretty much and then rally and then push again? And then what happened this week was I had my usual bad cold, so I was resting. I didn't get any work done, watched a lot of Netflix. And then a couple of days ago, this hasn't happened to me before. A couple of days ago, my eyes just kind of exploded. Like my eyes were bright red. I have green eyes, so when I would open my eyes, which my eyes are tiny anyway, but they were super swollen, and then I would open my eyes and all you could see was red and green, like no white at all anymore on my eyes. And I thought, oh dear, I'm not sure what that is in both eyes. So I don't think I just did something stupid and touched one eye while I was sick. So I went to the hospital and I had it checked and everything's fine and it's better now. But it did make me sort of sit back and think, okay, so you do go through this flow of bad cold, back up again, drive hard, bad cold. And I thought, no, but now the eyes. What is it about the eyes? And I'm usually a very literal person. I don't think very far outside the literal box of words at all. But I thought to myself, wow, can't see well. Like my eyes are a bit gummy and I can't open them very much. And so I thought, what is it you don't want to see, Sarah? Just metaphorically speaking, what is it that you don't want to see? And that brought me back to vulnerability in a different kind of way. So I thought, well, what is it that I don't want to see? And maybe what is it that I feel vulnerable about? And I've been talking to people, obviously, about what vulnerability means to them. And arrived kind of at the point where and it's a small step. It's moving from thinking of vulnerability as being open to harm or hurt to vulnerability as just being open to what's coming and not closing down because you are afraid or anxious of what may happen. And so then all of this brought me to think, well, I mean, maybe I'm just vulnerable to what's in my own self. So I usually think about, or I've been thinking about vulnerability in terms of being open to what's outside, to what's coming from outside. And then I thought, well, maybe I really just don't want to see, or I'm vulnerable to what's inside myself. And so that's why I stay so busy, so I can't really look at it. And then I kind of collapse. I don't have the energy to look at it. And then as soon as I have energy again, I start running again. And then I was listening to this, it's a great app. It's called Waking Up by Sam Harris. It's a meditation app. And I sort of play occasionally with the idea of meditating, and it's not natural for me really. But there are also these great conversations and poems and different pieces that he has on his app that are quite lovely. So then I listened to one by David Whyte called Self-Knowledge. And it was interesting because as soon as I thought, well, maybe I'll talk about that on the podcast, I thought, well, maybe I better research who David Whyte is and find out what he does and what he's about and what he thinks. And then I thought, no, don't overthink this. Just go with what you're taking away from what he's written. And he has a lovely voice. So if you want to check him out, David Whyte, his last name is spelled Whyte. But I'm going to read just the first part of what I listened to. Self-knowledge is not fully possible for human beings. We do not reside in a body, a mind, or a world where it is achievable, or from the point of being interesting, even desirable. Half of what lies in the heart and mind is potentiality, resides in the darkness of the unspoken and unarticulated, and has not yet come into being. This hidden, unspoken half will supplant and subvert any present understandings we have about ourselves. Human beings are a frontier between what is known and what is not known. The act of turning any part of the unknown into the known is simply an invitation for an equal measure of the unknown to flow in and re-establish that frontier, to reassert the far horizon of an individual life, to make us what we are, that is, a moving edge between what we know about ourselves and what we are about to become. What we are actually about to become or are afraid of becoming always trumps and rules over what we think we are already. And I really liked that. I really liked that because it feels sometimes like there is a lot of pressure, at least from me, on myself, to figure things out, figure myself out, to look deep within and not be afraid to see what's there. And what I took away from David Whyte was there may be things that we see in ourselves, and there are things that we don't see. There are things that we deny about ourselves that we're not willing to look at, probably. But there's also things we can't see. They don't exist yet. They're just potentially there. We're just on the verge of becoming. Those things lie on the other side of the horizon, and we can't see them, and that's okay. So when I think about what it means for me to be vulnerable, I think it's to be open and okay that there are things that I can see outside of myself and within myself. There are going to be things I can't see. Thankfully, I have many good friends who are wonderful mirrors for me that help me along that way a little bit. And there are things that I'm not going to be able to see, and I'll never be able to see. And in a way, if I step back again and look at that as a part of a process, when I question myself and people ask me why I started this podcast, and I don't really have a very compelling answer because I don't know if it's because I don't see why or I can't see why. I'm starting to think maybe it's on the other side of the horizon and I can't see why I started the podcast, and it doesn't really matter because I'm just doing it. And I don't have a plan for it. I'm not going to say I don't put thought into who I invite, but I don't plan it out. I don't have a schedule. I had a friend once who said maybe you should plan your year in advance and think about which guests or which artists you're going to invite to join you and why, and have a theme for the year. And first of all, that's just not my character. For people who know me, that's way beyond my planning capabilities, far beyond. But I also think it's something that's just emerging. I actually think that suits me. I think I question it about myself, that I think I should have a plan, and I don't. And I'm okay, and I'm okay with that. I'm just going to assume that the reasons why and the structure of and the planning of this podcast is over the horizon. I can't see it. As David Whyte says, We are a moving edge between what we know about ourselves and what we are about to become. And maybe vulnerability is the openness to outside of us and inside of us, accepting what we see, what we don't see, and what we can't see. I'd love to hear what you think about what I've shared. If it resonates with you, if I'm off my rocker, if there's anything in there that might be interesting for you to think about or share, I would love to hear from you. You can write me at vulnerabilitylifeart@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram at vulnerabilitylifeart. And I would really love to hear if this sparked anything for you. Thank you again for listening.